Lately I've been enjoying painting in a way that I haven't actually painted for a fair while now. It was pretty popular a fair few years ago and then it seemed to kind of die out for some reason. I can't really put my finger on why. But that's using a lot of kind of crazy OSL to really make miniatures pop. I played around with my old way of doing it, but I wanted to really make miniatures pop more, and I just wasn't having any joy with any of the fluorescent paints that I'd been trying until I gave these a go. Now this video isn't sponsored by Vallejo at all, but these, as far as I can tell without doing any research at all, are the new fluorescent paints from their updated range. I saw these kind of new pots popping up here and there and I figured I'd give them a try. I tried out the magenta to see if it would replace the magenta that I'd been using previously, and I was very pleasantly surprised with the results. The amount of opacity that I was getting just out of a few thin layers was awesome, so I wanted to try more colors, and everything that I've been posting I've been getting a very positive response about, and I've been very happy with myself. I'm going to be covering this while showing a few models simultaneously to kind of display how the same techniques can work across different units, different kind of applications for these fluorescent colors. So generally I go in personally with an airbrush, however you can do it with a dry brush or just simply building up thin layers with white and blocking in kind of a halo effect around the area. And then I generally like to use a white ink because it's nice and opaque while also being very viscous, so easy to get into those small crevices and filling in the deepest areas, so like the inside of the brains or inside this guy's face or his plasma weapon with a very opaque, bright striking layer of white. This allows us to build up a solid bright base for those fluorescent paints, which really do need it. Now these particular colors do actually cover well over just about everything now, but obviously you want the most striking part to be the inside of these light sources. Now we get to go in and actually add some color. So for the Dredge Marine, I'm using a fluorescent red, so I'm just slowly building up a couple of thin layers, building up that opacity and color until I get a look that I'm pretty happy with. And for the little brain bug, we're going with magenta. Again, you don't need an airbrush for this. You can simply do this with multiple thin layers of brushed paint. Once we've built up a solid base, I like to go in and re-establish a next kind of brightest point. So I add some white ink into the middle of this guy's helmet, as well as the outer edge of that plasma weapon with white ink. And in exactly the same way, I use a small brush with white ink to fill in the kind of center veins, the brightest, highest point of this brain bug's brain, with white ink as well. I decided to use an airbrush for the weapon, so as it would get a little bit of a smoother transition on the inside. Now again, it's time for another thin layer of color, so I'm probably using about half the amount of paint as the first time we went with the fluorescent paint. This will add a little bit more depth to the original layer, as well as just tinting those brightest points, giving us different levels of brightness between the multiple layers. One thing I generally like to do, which isn't necessary at all, is I then like to go in and add even more contrast. So I like to add darker spots. So you can see I was highlighting the top of the coils with a darker color, kind of like the outer parts of the plasma weapon are cooled, and I go and use a purple fluorescent paint and paint the highest points of the brain. And with just those simple steps, this is the result you're left with. All of these fluorescent paints probably took me no more than 10 to 20 minutes on each model, and you can very easily see the massive effect that it has on these models in how they stand out amongst anything else. So if you found this useful, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.